Welcome to another episode of the Antifragility Reframe podcast. I'm Dr. Frank L. Douglas, your host, and my guest today is Miss Dianna Deeney. She is a quality engineer, author of the book Piercing the Design Fog. She helps engineering teams to pierce that design fog and to become anti-fragile. Welcome, Ms. Deeney.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Good. I enjoyed our pre-interview discussion. What you do is just so very important when it comes to designing products, etc. But many
Sure.
lessons that can be learned. But let's begin by you telling us a little bit of your journey.
Well, I've enjoyed speaking with you also. Um, my journey, I really focus in industrial manufacturing. So, companies that make goods for customers. Their customers could be other businesses, it could be consumers. So, I've always worked in that area. It's something that I really love, how things are made, and then also making decisions on how they're made. And I started on the production floor. I was an operator on machines, became an engineer, worked on actually making the product, making it better, and then found myself into quality and reliability engineering, where I was in the room where design decisions were happening. And through all of that, I noticed a common theme is that teams, especially in the early phases of problem solving or creating something new, there was a lot of uncertainty, and the teams that worked through that uncertainty well ended up having success. But many other teams that weren't able to work through that or avoided conversations and avoided conflicts weren't able to work through those problems and those ideas, and their projects weren't as successful. So I've been working to give people the tools needed to work together in a team setting so that they can come up with innovative ideas and design new things together, which makes them more anti-fragile
Mhm.
and also just helps them with their success of their products.
Could you give us an example of a project? And what are the types of things you might have observed during this design phase and the way you have helped them to shift perspective in the way
Well,
they're doing it?
something that I noticed in my quality engineering, usually quality engineers are working on the manufacturing floor where the machines are, where there's processes making things, and they're always looking for continuous improvement and solving problems. So there's a lot of quality tools, people call them. You may have heard of Ishikawa diagrams or fishbone diagrams and process flow charts. So these are all things that the manufacturing engineers have gotten really good at using. And when I started working in the design team, I noticed similar problems. There were parallel problems or issues that needed to be solved in the design realm, even before they actually knew what they were designing yet, before there were any CAD drawings. So I would take my quality tools, frameworks, maybe create some new templates, some ways to constrain some of the ideas, but yet facilitate the team, a cross-functional team, through talking about their ideas. Um, because it's the anti-fragility comes from intentional teamwork, understanding that we're living through or working through a lot of uncertainty. Um, and we need to have the courage and able to be able to use that uncertainty and conflict as fuel to be able to ideate. So when I would do this with teams, I did this for a particular project. They needed to redesign how they were communicating with the customer and some of the interface pieces with a product. And I would facilitate the cross-functional team. They were always willing, able to work, very patient with trying some of the new techniques. And there was always conversations going on that because there's so many assumptions. The engineers had assumptions about the customers that were wrong and they didn't realize it. Or there were constraints that the manufacturing people had that the customer facing people didn't understand. And just through working through these problems and having these discussions, they were able to come out on the other side with something that they wouldn't have otherwise. They learned more about what they were dealing with. They got rid of the uncertainty. They worked with purpose, and they came out on the other side better informed and better able to make decisions for more success.
Back when I was uh, closer to the bench, closer to what you were doing, uh, one of the things that I was very much concerned about and challenged the teams was to really think about the functional human factors. So
Mm,
that when you are going to design a product for a human, think about two things. One, since I was in the medical field, uh, think about the provider who may be using that tool. What
mm,
are the factors that that provider will face as they are using that tool? And then the person on whom that tool will be used, who will be benefited from that tool, what are the factors they will face? And to sort of start there before you start getting into all very complicated designs to start at that point. Do you do things like that?
yes, there are a lot of design processes like there's Agile and Stage Gate, and a lot of companies have gotten better at introducing customers into the cycle. There'll be design loops that where customers will review what they're doing. But at that beginning, before you can still get customers involved and do your market needs analysis and understand them. But there are ways for the team to work together to identify some of the unanswered questions or the misassumptions that they're making at the very onset.
Hmm.
And, a lot of people think that to innovate, it has to come from somewhere else. An idea has to come from outside, or we need to bring new talent in. But I found that's not necessarily the case. Especially entrepreneurs coming up with new ideas. If they have a staff, if they have their marketing is plugged into the market and sales is plugged into customers, and they have their engineering team, their team is well equipped to be able to innovate together and to come up with new ideas. They don't need to outsource to innovate. And good innovation doesn't come from a vacuum. As long as you're intentional with gathering those people together and you give them some sort of a process or a framework to work through. It's not a checklist kind of thing. It's more of getting alignment with everybody and on specific goal. What are we trying to talk about today? What are our issues? And more importantly, how's the decision going to be made? Because if you get everybody in the room together to come up with recommendations and then the CEO says, we're not going to do that. It's okay as long as everybody's understanding it at the beginning. Um, but
Do
have
you
you had
have any,
experience with that?
yeah, do you have any examples where during the innovating together, which is one of the things we talk about in order to be anti-fragile, is really to innovate together, where teams, let's say the engineers perhaps, start off with their concept, working on developing some type of a model that they can bring to the rest of the team. Uh, and then the rest of the team are not quite sure. But then you start that discussion where they really begin to innovate together, and they get some ahas that are really instructive to the engineering team. Um, any ideas, any examples you can share with us?
Sure. And I would even say if the engineers are starting to develop concepts, it's not too late, but teams can actually work together earlier to
Mm,
help the engineers come up with
mhm,
more relevant concepts.
mhm,
And the way to do that is to focus on the customer, like you said, knowing the customer. But then even after knowing the customer a little bit, and you have your idea and you know what you want to pursue it, you can start to target customer experiences.
mhm,
So you break out this whole big problem into some smaller problems. When your product works well, our customers are seeing a benefit. Well,
mhm,
what are those benefits we want them to see with using our product or service? When things don't go right, our customers are experiencing a symptom. The easiest way to think about that is a complaint. If you have competitor products, your own products and services, what are people complaining about? Those are some of the symptoms of problems that you can identify early to design out or to address. And then finally, even though you don't have a concept yet, there's no CAD drawings, we still know that our customers are using our product or service to be able to accomplish something. Some people call it the jobs to be done,
mhm.
but you can identify like 5 to 7 steps between they're picking up our product, they're using this, they're doing these steps to get to where they needed to go. And you can start to identify what's the critical step that we really need to focus on. So with these, you're focused on the customer, you're prioritizing based on the impact it's going to have to the customer, and you really start to parse out what's going to be important for this design. And that's what can help the engineers prioritize and decide, make some design decisions later. So that's one iteration that teams can do from the get-go.
Any any observations about how this process of designing a product to fit needs of customers, customer requirements, how that is similar to how we deal with other problems in life?
Yeah, when we're designing products, we're solving somebody's problem.
Mm,
So this truly is a problem-based way of thinking.
mhm,
And we can apply this to other things in our lives too. We have a problem. Um, when we're thinking about how to solve it, with product design, you're targeting customer experiences, right? But when we're solving problems, we can also take a team-based approach, which we want to get alignment on where everybody is. What is it that we're trying to achieve? What problem do we need to solve? And then we want to discover some of the potential solutions that our team has. Not that it's pie in the sky, open brainstorming, but we're really thinking about what are some of the solutions that we can come up with. And then we want to examine what those ideas are. We want to be able to turn them from my idea into these are our ideas. And we examine them for common understanding. Do we all understand in the same way what these ideas are? And then prioritize what makes sense. And
Tell us a
that
little bit about your book that you have written, Pierce the Design.
yeah, my book is Pierce the Design Fog. And in it, I have some frameworks that teams can follow for product development, early design decisions. But, it's got the quality and reliability engineering frameworks to it. Um, I help teams work together through that early concept, but then I know that's not where it ends. You need to translate that into something the engineers can use.